god! That was insane! Oh my god!
My name is Brent Billings. I'm the Public Information Officer and Firefighter for the City of Berea. I've been a full-time firefighter for 5 years now. Before that, I was a volunteer fireman for the City of Berea for 7 years. I was born and raised and grew up right here in Berea. I have a bachelor's in business and a master's in fire emergency management.
Joey Bryant. I just wanted to, I think it's very important to be a good Samaritan in your community, and I just wanted to help my community, and I found that EMS and fire is the way that I wanted to serve my community.
My name is Brad Hilton. I'm a fireman here at the City of Berea. I've been here for just a little over 20 years. Currently a battalion chief. Have been part of the fire service for, well, really the biggest part of my life. Volunteered a few years previously to that. Born and raised here in Berea. Never lived anywhere else. Raising my family here now.
My name's Brian Hargis. I've been here at the Berea Fire Department since 2016. I'm a firefighter here. I actually am married with 3 kids. I have a son that's in high school and 2 daughters in elementary. Moved to Berea in 2016. Actually, after I got the job here, just started the service as a volunteer and fell in love with it and decided to make a career out of it.
My father is the chief of Sangap Volunteer Fire Department in Sangap, Kentucky, and so I grew up around in the fire department, and I was one of the few that got to start the junior program when I was 12. Now it's 15, but I was one of the lucky few that actually got to start 12 before they moved the age restrictions up, and I just started the fire service with my dad. He was my inspiration on being a firefighter.
My family history has several firefighters that actually some of the ones from back in the 60s that started the volunteer program here in Berea, that back in the day when just after the college had gotten rid of when they used to take care of, Berea College used to take care of the fire department, and then some of my family were some of the ones that first started the volunteer program. From there, I had a grandpa that was involved, an uncle that was involved, other family members that were involved. So I guess some kind of family lineage to some degree, plus I had just always been interested in the fire service and had spent several years working towards it, and before I became a career fireman.
I became a firefighter on a personal issue. My grandpa actually got killed in a tractor accident, and the fire department was there for my family. They stayed after the accident was cleared and just supported us in what we could need, and it really impacted me as a young gentleman, and decided that I needed to do something better with my life, and I just wanted to do something to where I could be there for somebody else's family. One
day when I was in college, a buddy of mine was on the volunteer fire department, and he called and asked if I wanted to come hang out at the station. And I said, sure, I'm not doing anything else. So I went and hung out, and he showed me around and told me that I should apply. And I thought, well, I'm not doing anything else. So I did, and that's kind of how it all got started, just kind of snowballed from there. And so now I'm a firefighter.
What is it like being a firefighter?
You know, it's a job that an older gentleman that was on the fire department for years told me. He said it's the greatest job in the world, and it can be the most stressful job in the world. It's one that when you come into work, you never know what you're going to do next, and very possibly it could be a day where you sit around, it could be a day where you do training, or it could be a day where you never see the station because you're so busy. But it's never the same. It's always an interesting challenge.
I love it. I think the best word to describe it would be exciting. It is a joy to come into work every day. Every day is different, so I think it's the best job in the world.
I would say, like I said, the most rewarding job that you could possibly have at times, from the most exciting job you can have at times to sometimes the most boring job that you can have at times. It is a broad spectrum job that is never the same from day to day and minute to minute.
I think it does somewhat. Right now, all the batteries are charged today. We finally remembered to do that.
What is the most interesting call you've got?
Most interesting, got a call to a cat stuck in a tree. Typical call we get a lot here at the fire department. So we get there, and it's not a cat, it's actually a baby fox. And I'm talking baby fox, real small. And it's got its head stuck in a little branch in a tree. And so we get there and we get it out, and there's a little hole in a hollow tree. And so we get there and we get it unstuck, and the hole is just big enough for me to stick my head and a flashlight in. And me being the young gung-ho firefighter I am, I wanted to see what was in that tree. So I stick my head in this little hole and flashlight down in there, and I can look down and I see Mama Fox protecting her two little baby foxes. So I got out of that hole real quick and got back down to safety. But that I think was interesting to me.
People ask that a lot about interesting calls, and interesting is sometimes hard to describe. The most tragic ones that you can have, or funny calls that you have, or ones that are closer to home for you. But I always look back to some of the funnier ones, usually animal calls, or I went once to had to go and rescue a macaw parrot, like a big 2-foot-tall red talking parrot.
What is the most interesting call you've got?
Probably by far, whenever I was just starting off in the volunteer, it was late one night, dark, rainy night. We got a phone call, or got it paged out to a vehicle versus an animal. When we got on scene, I was one of the first ones there. Went up to check the guy. Wasn't really hurt, but a lot of damage to his vehicle. He was in the roadway. He said that he thought he hit a calf, but whenever he went to see what it was, it growled at him. Calves don't growl, so whenever I went to investigate to see where the animal was at, it was off the roadway. Took a flashlight and walked about 20 feet off the roadway. Turns out he had hit a black bear, and the animal was injured, ended up having to be put down, but definitely made you take several steps back and question what you was walking up on real quick.
I'm going to take some footage with the T3i, get some extra footage. So, yeah.
What is the training like?
Training, initially, it's pretty extensive and intense. It is taxing on the body and the mind, learning what you need to do, being physically fit to get the job. And after that, honestly, it kind of stays the same, but it gets easier in the sense that you are repetition. You're practicing your skills. You're getting better at those skills. So when I first started, I thought it was difficult to throw a ladder. Now that I know the techniques and I worked on it and it's become proficient at it, it's easy to me now. It's just second nature. So training is something we have to keep up with every year. We've got to get X amount of hours every year to retain our certifications. So those have to stay on top of it. I have to continually train and continually work with those skill sets.
I always say the training is continuous. Like I said, if you've been here for a day or a month or a year, or like me, been here for 20, you still never stop training. In order to keep our certifications, we have to keep a certain amount of hours per year. And in the beginning, it's in particular subjects. Some as simple as, public relations training, like what we're doing right now, where we do these interviews or do station tours, to the next day you may be doing entry on structural firefighting type training. So it is also broad spectrum training, but I always say it's continuous, it never stops.
I'm a big component of training. It's always evolving. There's new stuff coming out every day, new studies, and the stuff that we deal with is different than what we did 10, 15, 20 years ago. It can be something as simple as tying knots to, practice going entry on a structure fire, or doing rappelling and rope rescues, trench rescues, confined space. It's always challenging. It's always evolving, and if you're not willing to evolve and grow with that, then you probably need to step away from this service, because you're never perfect. You always want to train until you can't get it wrong, not until you get it right.
I'm charging the other battery for the other camera because I only have 2 batteries. I only have 1 battery for each camera, so.
What do you think of Berea?
Berea's an awesome town. I'm originally from Pulaski County, a small area, rural community, and I like that small town feel, and that was really appealing to me whenever I looked at this area. It's still a hometown feel, but it's further along than a lot of your rural areas, but still most everybody knows their neighbors, and it's just that hometown feel.
Berea is home to me. So my first thoughts of Berea is home. That's, like I said, where I was born and raised, and have chose to live and work and raise my family. So to me, there'd be no other place.
Berea's my home, my hometown. That's where I grew up, that's where I was raised. I love it. It's a unique little town. It's different than anywhere else you'll go. And so I've always heard the saying that you can never get away from here. And I think that's a good thing. I moved away when I was in college and came right back, and I wouldn't go anywhere else.
And so like what we're thinking about doing is using it for our inventory. So you can put this on a door, put it inside the door here. I can get my phone and scan it with my phone, and it will tell me everything that's in this compartment.
What do you do in a day?
The day varies about like everything else. This particular job is always so inconsistent with time and what you plan and what you do. And we come in with a daily agenda of, we're going to clean the station, and we're going to clean trucks, and we're going to maintenance our equipment, and we're going to prepare our stuff, and we're going to have we're going to work on everything and keep everything in tip-top shape that we can answer the calls that may arise. We may have a plan that day to do building inspections. We may have a plan to check fire hydrants or test hose, or we may have, but in a day that you plan, you always in the back of your mind have the unplanned, and the unplanned is what always usually happens that messes up what your daily plan is. So you do a little bit of your daily plan, you answer a call, work with what time you have, and go back to your plan or back to another call.
So whenever we come in every morning, we have set duties that we're supposed to do every morning. Whether it's just our morning checks, we go through every apparatus, we check every piece of tool on it, make sure it's in its proper place, if it's functional. We run all the trucks and do everything, and then we have daily duties that we do. Could be anything from keeping our station clean to cleaning apparatuses, maintenance, or it can possibly be a training day. We also get involved a lot with the community. We do PR events. We actually do inspections on buildings and stuff and businesses, make sure that there's no fire hazards or anything like that we have to do on a daily.
That's an interesting question. Every day is different. We do different things, from making sure that our equipment's ready to go and clean and in proper working order. We go on calls, we train, but we got to make sure that we're in top shape, both physically, mentally, and that our equipment is in top shape too and ready to go. So getting it ready to go, doing training, doing inspections, doing different stuff like that is a typical day on top of emergency runs.
Into the fire. Scene, I don't know. Take one. Action. So right now we are locked out of the building. So basically what happened was the door locks on itself. So we're kind of stuck out here for right now, and it's freezing outside.
No, stuff like that, like when it's like really bad outside.
These trucks have chains on them. So underneath the tire, a device comes down and throws chains underneath the tires, drives slower, and then just don't stay out as long. That we were on shift that day that there was that -17 or whatever it was.
Oh yeah.
And we had a bunch of calls that day. You just get out, take care of the call, and get back as quick as you can. Dethaw the trucks.
You're gonna put that on? Oh gosh, you're gonna fall. You're really gonna fall. You're gonna die. Oh. He's trying to save people from fires. This is an honor to see Aaron struggle inside of a firefighter. Awesome. Aaron, here, turn around. Look at the camera.
All right, now we got a slight problem. It's getting pretty dark. So I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of grain in the video. You can see it moving around on the screen because it's really dark, and I had no choice but to crank up the ISO. It's not recommended, but you don't really have any other option. So just keep that in mind, that ISO, cranking it up to its max is the last resort. I don't know if I have the wrong batteries. I might need bigger batteries. Other than that, it should be able to work with that.